is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback. Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball. And this is
ABC's Monday Night Baseball, live from Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's flat. He throws. It is.
It is March 29th, 2026. March Madness is in full swing, and 50 years ago, on March 29th, 1976, there was Kent Benson on the cover of Sports Illustrated as the Indiana Hoosiers were marching towards history. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Past Our Prime podcast, where we look back at sports from half a century ago through old issues of Sports Illustrated. Your three hosts on hand every week, Mark Hoffman, Bill Mahoney, and me, Scott Johnston. And this week, we are talking perfection. Indiana heading to the Final Four, looking to cap off their undefeated season. For the second time in less than 4 months, we will have the great Hoosier big man Kent Benson on the show to talk about IU's March Madness trip from 50 years ago. He's one of the good guys. Looking forward to talking with Kent Benson again coming up. And Mark, what do you think of that cover?
Well, you know what I love about that cover? So it shows Kent coming up with a hook shot over Marquette. I love the Marquette uniforms because you know what's really popular right now? The untuck it look. You know, you have all those commercials for nobody tucks their shirt in anymore. Everybody walks around with their shirt tucked out. It's fashionable. It's the style. There's a company named after it. And Marquette was one of the few basketball teams I can ever remember. Their uniforms were untuck it. Those jerseys went over the trousers or the shorts. And it was just a unique look back then. Plus, the name Marquette was under the number, not over the number, which is traditional. So it was literally the name Marquette was at your waist, and the big numbers were on your chest.
And they lost.
And that's my fashion statement for the day.
You know, when I think of sports and perfection, like most people, I think of the WWF's Kurt Hennig, known as Mr. Perfect. He lost many matches, and when he did win, he often cheated, but still, that is personified perfection for me. Died of a drug overdose in 2003 from steroids and painkillers, which is a perfect way for a wrestler of that era to die. So hard for me to think anyone can top that, but we're going to try. Mark, when you think of something perfect in sports or anything else, what comes to mind?
Well, you'd think it'd be like a no-hitter or a perfect game or something like that. No. When I think of perfection, I think of the movie 10 that came out in 1979, and I think of Bo Derek running along that beach with the hair all tied up with the beads and stuff flowing. That's what I think of.
Perfect.
I can't match that.
Yeah.
Come on.
And playing Bolero as she's like.
Right. And Bill's going to say, I think of Don Larson.
I know exactly. Now I got to come up with all the nude scenes. Oh, damn it.
I'm a real American man.
You know you are, man.
And I remember going to see the movie when it came out.
I did too. I tried to watch it streaming, but you had to pay for it. I thought I'm not doing it.
Saw it in Westwood.
All right, I can kind of combine the two. I had my first major crush was Mary Lou Retton. And
really?
That was her getting a perfect score of 10 in the 84 Summer Games. So there you go. That's a crush and a perfect score. Mark, this one is perfect for you.
Yes, it is, because I am known as the punster. When anyone hears a sportscaster reading a bad pun, they think, oh, Mark must have wrote it, because I live my life for that. But there was a guy who worked for NBC, Nate Ash, who liked to come up with bad puns. And I think, everyone remembers, Chris Berman, with his little pun things like Frank Tanana Daiquiri and Bert be home by 11.
Oh, to be young again, McDowell.
Right. But this guy, Nate, he was the forefronter of all this stuff. So I just thought it was neat because, like I say, I love puns,
Yes,
and
you.
puns love me.
Hey, you're two peas in a pod. Bill, tell me about those damn women drivers.
Yep, this is relating to the Jimmy Bryan 150 held right here in Phoenix, Arizona, where we are right now. It's about Arlene Hiss. She made her debut in that race, and not all the drivers are real happy because she didn't do that well. But here's what they said. Bobby Unser said she was in the way all day. Pancho Carter said she was a hazard. Bill Vukovich said she has no business out there. And Gary Bettenhausen questioned whether women could physically handle the sport. Oh boy. Hiss fired back. The new super chauvinists are the ones making the flack. They don't want women in the race. But there was one guy that didn't agree with that. A past our prime guest known as Johnny Rutherford. He said, I'd rather have her out there than a couple of guys I can think of. At least she keeps in a straight line. And then right there, getting ready to race in the first Indy 500 was Janet Guthrie. So they couldn't say that to her.
Yeah.
She said, I'm not here to prove a point. I'm in racing because I love it. I don't know if Arlene Hiss did anything after that. Janet Guthrie, I think, did all right for herself.
Yeah, part of that famous family. Interesting. It's kind of funny because you would think that 50 years later that there would be more women drivers, but it kind of stalled out. We have not had too many that I know of.
I think the only one people now remember is Danica Patrick.
Right, right.
That's pretty much all they've got.
Yeah.
They forget about, Muldowney. Was it Shirley Muldowney?
Oh, she was
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shirley Cha-Cha Maldani.
Hot
You ever
rod.
seen the movie Heart Like a Wheel?
Great
With-
movie.
Oh, three
Yeah,
times.
Bonnie Bedelia.
Yeah, good movie. The 1976 Montreal Olympics are proceeding despite a projected deficit of up to $900 million. That's just insane. University of Michigan athletic director Don Canham warns the modern Olympics may collapse financially after Moscow because few nations can afford them. He's advocating splitting future games, kind of like what they're going to do for the upcoming World Cup, across multiple sites. Like you'd have track in Los Angeles, basketball in New York, swimming in Florida, to use existing facilities and cut costs. Of course, the 80 games in Moscow were boycotted by the U.S. as well as, I always forgot about this, it was a U.S.-led boycott. So West Germany didn't go, Japan, Canada, a bunch of South American countries didn't go to Moscow. Then in 84, the games came to L.A., a huge success despite the boycott by the Soviet Union countries. The games in LA cost around $470 to $540 million and generated a surplus of $230 million. So Uberoth basically ended the talk that Olympic Games could not be moneymakers. And ever since then, I think they've been doing pretty well. They'll probably take that into consideration as to what city or country gets the games to whether or not they can actually afford it. And I thought this was great. Part of the money that the LA Summer Games got back in 1984 funded youth sports and elite programs and is still doing so today. So 40 plus years later, they still have the funds for some of these programs because of those Olympics. So good stuff. They said it, Billy.
Rick Dudley, he said this after colliding with Gordie Howe's stick. It made me mad, but what are you going to do? If I fought him and won, I'd look like an idiot for beating up a 47-year-old man. If he beat me, I'd look more like an idiot for losing.
That's a lose-lose situation.
That's right.
He's basically an idiot. Mark?
Well, speaking of fighting, Chris Dundee, the boxing promoter, but he's talking about middle age. He says middle age is when you start for home about the same time you used to start for something else. And oh my God, I remember my 20s, if I got home before midnight on a weekend, it was considered a failed night, I had to be out till 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And yeah, I wouldn't start I'd like to eat dinner like at 8 or 9 o'clock on a Saturday and then do something afterwards, And tonight, now, it's like it's 8 o'clock, but it feels good to go home now. Yeah, I've been out a long time tonight.
Oh, I saw something the other day that made me laugh. That was like, it's 11 o'clock, in your 20s, it's 11 o'clock, let's go out. And now we can't start the movie. It's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I know, and I used to love to go to night movies.
Oh, yeah.
Late night movies. 8, 9 o'clock nowadays. It's like, oh, come on. It's
Right?
3 hours. We'll never get out of there.
I dragged my wife to movies initially when we started going out, like on a Wednesday, like at 10:30 at night. And finally she said, because I would have 2 days off during the middle of the week. And she finally said, Mark, I got to work in the morning. I can't do these late movies. I said, you're right.
Bob Prince, ABC TV baseball broadcaster, explaining why he turned down an announcing job with the Padres. He said, in San Diego, you have the Pacific Ocean to the west, Mexico to the south, the desert to the east, and Vince Scully to the north. So he's surrounded by no-win situations.
And the most imposing figure is Scully.
Right. Let's get to the magazine, shall we? 4 heads, 1 crown. The Final Four is set. But the question is, can anybody beat Indiana? The undefeated Hoosiers advance to the NCAA finals in Philadelphia. They've got momentum. They've got confidence after already beating contenders like UCLA and Michigan early in the season. And Bill, they've also got our guest coming up, Kent Benson, who doesn't have a mustache yet, but that's coming.
No, Kent Benson, if you look at all of the pictures and videos, he's just a clean-cut college guy. And all of a sudden you get to the NBA and he's got this bushy mustache. And I'm thinking, why didn't I ask him about that? It's almost like he got out from underneath Bobby Knight, became a man, and said, I'm growing a mustache now and you can't stop me.
It's kind of like Bill Walton, who, had to be clean cut for Wooden. And then as soon as he got to the NBA, man, the long hair and the beard and the great Grateful Dead look.
Yeah. And, you forget because these guys look older than 20-year-olds of today, maybe just because they just look like men, but these are just kids still. Kent Benson was like 21 years old when this was taken. And Mark, UCLA is actually the defending champions. They've got Marcus Johnson and Richard Washington, but tell me about the future, and it's not good for UCLA.
Well, first of all, they almost lost to Arizona. The game is tied at 58 with 8 minutes to go in the game when they go on an 18-2 run. They only beat Pepperdine by 9 points. And, they got smoked by Indiana in that first game. And so they had no chance. I remember I went to Magic Mountain during that Final Four because I knew UCLA wasn't going to win that game. So why stay at home and get upset and watch them lose to Indiana? I'll go have fun. And that's what I did. And they lost 65-51. But everyone knew Indiana was going to the finals. The question was, who would they play in the finals? And the head coach of Northwestern at the time, a guy we all know, Tex Winter, the inventor of the triangle offense, Phil Jackson's mentor. Yeah. He was the coach at Northwestern at the time, and he was quoted as saying, I wouldn't be surprised to see Indiana and Michigan both in the finals.
Wow.
That is a man who can see ahead.
Yeah.
Which is probably why he's such a great coach.
Yep, there's another undefeated team in the Final Four, Rutgers, and a second big team coming as well to Philly, and that was, yes, Michigan. They beat Notre Dame and Missouri. They'll face Rutgers in the semifinals, and it will be an Indiana-Michigan playing for the national championship in 1976. Back in December, Kent Benson was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as the Hoosiers began their season and marched towards history. Less than 4 months later, March 29th, 1976, there he was again on the cover of SI. That's what happens when you're the centerpiece of an historically good team like the 76 Hoosiers were. Now, after beating Marquette, they were just 2 wins away from finishing the season undefeated. A perfect season for IU and Kent Benson. And Kent joins us now for a second time on Past Our Prime. Good to see you again, Kent. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Scott. Blessed of God and highly favored. It's great to see you, Bill and Mark. Thank you for joining your show here.
Hey, Kent, the win over Marquette earned you the Sports Illustrated cover the following week, showing you in action against them. Looking back, what does it mean to have those bookend covers of being on SI to commemorate that perfect 32-0 season for you?
Well, from a personal standpoint, very honored and blessed to have that type of recognition by Sports Illustrated and to be on the cover. I was blessed to be on the cover a couple more times as well, not necessarily as the primary cover, but a part of it. But it goes back to the fact that I was representing my team. My team we were so good and so blessed to be able to play with each other and play for Coach Knight. When you talk about Bobby Wilkerson and Quinn Buckner, Scott May, Tom Abernathy, Jim Cruz, and of course our second team that made us so much better as players.
Get that March 20th, 1976 regional final in which you scored 18 points with 9 boards against number 2 Marquette in Baton Rouge was billed as the showdown everyone had been waiting for all season. Marquette's been shouting at you guys in the standings. What was it like, the vibe heading into that game? And did you feel like it was the biggest test for you guys up to that point?
Well, up to that point, Scott, it was the biggest test. They were ranked number 2, of course. But when you go back into the entire season, our season, you can even go back into 1974-75 season that set the tone where we went 18 games undefeated in the Big Ten, and then in 76 won 18 games undefeated in the Big Ten for 2 years, successfully winning 36 games in a row in the Big Ten, which is still unprecedented today as far as no one's ever done it. And I really believe that our Big Ten schedule, the way we started the season out in 1976, our first 2 games, first game was against the UCLA Bruins, the national champions from the year before. We beat them handily down in St. Louis. We beat them by 20 points. Our second game was against the Olympic champions, the Russians, the world champions. So we started our season out playing the 2 best teams in the entire world, setting the tone for the rest of the season, knowing that as we went into the season, everyone that we played was going to give us their best shot. There was no doubt about it. We had close games and all, but what really as you look at our path to the Final Four and to that championship, there was only 32 teams back then that were in the tournament, and all those teams were ranked teams that we had to play. So we were playing the best of the best, and then to have a face off with Marquette, tremendous coach with Al McGuire and the great players that they had. It was a tremendous showdown, and we definitely made a statement. And going from that win right there into the Final Four, playing against UCLA and then Michigan.
So the NCAA tournament was a little different back then. There was no South Regional. There was a Midwest and a Mideast Regional. So you guys are playing in the Mideast Regional. How tough of a regional was that? Because you had teams like Alabama and Marquette and St. John's all stacked in there.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I prefaced that saying that we played all ranked teams, and when you look at today with the way the schedule is, with I think what is it, 68 teams now, and all, and the top teams play the lower teams, and you got these buys and everything. Our road to the Final Four was undoubtedly one of the toughest that anyone's ever had to play.
I mean, before you played Marquette, you had in the second round a really tough game against Alabama. You only won by 5. And I believe you had not fouled out of a game that year, but you had picked up 4 fouls fairly early in the second half. And then there was a key call against the Alabama player. There was either going to be a charge or a block that was going to knock you out of the game. Can you tell me what happened there and how it maybe kept you alive in the tournament?
Well, Leon Douglas was a great player. When I got into foul trouble, of course, Tom Abernathy came in and did a great job of defending him as well. But I go back to what I had said earlier is that, we have players that were so unified that and we really didn't care who scored the most points or whatever, who got the recognition, because if one player was having an off night, another player would come in and pick up the slack. And that goes back to talking about a team, of being able to bring a group of talented individuals together who use their God-given talents and abilities, and at the same time put aside their own personal agendas for the success of the team, knowing that when the team wins, everybody wins. And that was the whole makeup of our team. We didn't care who got the credit, because we knew that when the team won, everybody won, and we were excited about that.
Yeah, Kent, just looking back at that Alabama team, how were you able to shut down one of the best players in college basketball that year in Leon Douglas? How were you? I mean, I think he shot like 30%. You guys put the clamps on him.
Well, again, it goes back to playing our team defense. Coach Knight was a great defensive coach. His philosophy of coaching is a game plan and all, and we played together as a team. And when you have great guards like Quinn Buckner and Bobby Wilkerson dropping down, putting pressure on him, great forwards like Scott May and Tom Abernathy, it just made the game really tough for him, Leon Douglas. And as a great player as he was, when you go up against players like what I just mentioned of my teammates, you're going to have a tough row to hoe. And we were able to overcome any of the challenges that he brought to us, and able to win that game.
And obviously there were many challenges, but it was great to have Scott May back on the team. What was it like to have him in the game all the time and know that he could get a bucket, it seemed like, anytime he wanted?
Well, as maybe your listeners know, and you all know, in '75, Scott broke his arm in the Purdue game, and we didn't have him going into the tournament and the end of the season. And we ended up losing to Kentucky 92-90 in the Elite Eight. And we feel that had Scott May not got hurt, of course, we'd had our whole team intact, and we would have been two-time national championship team, undefeated. But when you got a prolific scorer like Scott May, to be able to score almost at will, it takes a lot of pressure off of you, knowing that all you got to do is make sure we help get him open and get him the ball in a scoring position.
Yeah, and they also had this other guy on the team. I forgot who it was. He was a big guy in the middle. I'm talking about you, Kent. Every video I see, you're cleaning up the boards, you're making the great pass. Tell me about your game and how perfect was it for that IU team in '76?
Well, I've been blessed of God and highly favored in regards to being able to have people that took time, energy, and effort to work with me. They saw the potential that I had, were willing to work with me to help me develop my skills and talents and abilities that God gave me. And I was able to be placed with a great team of guys that were very talented, with a great coach and all. And so what I did is I worked very hard individually. Before practice, I'd come in 45 minutes to an hour before and stay 45 minutes to an hour after, working on my game individually with the coaches and the managers. And, when you have a player, then not just myself, but our players were very focused on not only improving ourselves individually, but collectively. And that was our goal from after losing to Kentucky in 1975 in the Elite Eight, that we wanted to be able to accomplish not only the national championship, but do it in an undefeated style. And we were able to do that. And I just give all the praise, the glory, and the honor to God in allowing me the opportunity to play on that stage with such a great team and great coach and great players.
Let's talk about that coach Bobby Knight. I had a news director, and I remember he liked to challenge his producers. And one day he came into me because I did only 2 stories in a sportscast because they were 2 huge stories. And he says, "Who produced that sportscast? Why did you do that?" And then I sat down and calmly explained to him why and stuff like that. And then he was like, "Okay." And he left. Was Bobby the kind of coach that liked to challenge his players? And a lot of times if he screamed at you, it wasn't necessarily he was angry or mad or just wanted to piss you off. It was that he wanted to challenge you and see how you responded to it?
That's a great question. First of all, Coach was very intense. He was very bombastic. He did whatever he had to do to get your attention because he knew that each and every player that he had recruited that's playing on his team, he knew our potential more so than we knew ourselves, and he was willing to do whatever it took in order to get us to play to our potential. And so, whether it be hollering and screaming, and of course, he was. He reminded us, of course, his favorite person and leader was General George Patton. You know, when you look at that, you understand where Coach Knight's coming from because that was his hero. I'll never forget the first time I stepped into Coach Knight's office when I was being recruited as a high school senior. Actually, I went to his office as a junior. I was being recruited, but the first thing I noticed was the picture of Patton on his desk. So it basically set the tone for knowing how Coach Knight was going to be. And you know, Coach Knight always wanted the best for his players, and he was not afraid to push us to understand that we could be better than what we were. And you know, when he was on your case, that was a good thing because he cared about you. He saw that you could improve and was willing to do whatever he had to do. But if he didn't get on your case, then you knew you were in trouble because he'd almost given up on you. But I never saw Coach Knight give up on anybody. And you know, if I had to do it all over again, Mark, I'd go back and play for Coach Knight, knowing what I know now and experience what I experienced. And I even take it another step further. I have 4 daughters. And if I had a son who was good enough to play at that level and being recruited by Coach Knight, I would encourage him to go and play for Coach Knight, whether it be at IU or TTU or Podunk U, because he's going to make you a better player. He's going to challenge you and make you a better person. He's going to prepare you for the most important game that you'll ever play, and that's the game of life after basketball.
I'm surprised he didn't take you guys out to see the movie Patton with George C. Scott. You know, that was his idol, toughen you up. But in later years, did you ever get a chance to sit with Coach, you know, maybe when he was done coaching and stuff like that, and talk to him and ask him about like what his mindset was like back then as opposed to when he stopped coaching?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, when Coach left Indiana University, he went out to Texas. Played coached at Texas Tech University and spent most of his remaining lifetime out in Texas. I never had an opportunity to sit with him and ask that specific question, but I didn't have to. I knew where his heart was. I knew how he felt about his players. I knew how he felt, especially about our team and the 1976 team. And the individual players and the unity that we had. One of the things that Coach Knight always talked about was the mental is to the physical is 4 is to 1. The mental is 4 times greater than the physical. And there's no question that he knew that physically we could play against anybody. It's the mental attitude, the mental preparation of the game. We were always prepared from scouting report, a game plan going into a game, but Coach understood that we'd make mistakes, and he was okay with that. Okay in the sense that he didn't go ballistic about it. It was the mental mistakes that really upset him because he knew that we were better than that. He knew that the mental is to the physical is 4 is to 1, and it was so much greater. And it was important that we would be mentally ready to play our game.
Kent Benson is our guest on the Past Our Prime podcast, the All-American center, and one of the greatest to ever play at Indiana, and a key piece of that 32-0 1976 Indiana Hoosiers team. There were a lot of key pieces, which is what makes that team exactly that, a great team, because as Kent will tell you, one guy doesn't have a big game, it just means someone else needs to step up, and that's what they did. That win, Kent, over Marquette sends you guys to Philadelphia and the Final Four. And what would be celebratory for a lot of teams just means that you guys now have to play UCLA. Now I know you beat the Bruins handily in the first game of the season, but they've won like 38 straight national championships going into that game. What was the mindset? I imagine, Coach Knight, that there was not a lot of celebrating after getting there because, woo, the deer in the headlights. Here come the Bruins.
Well, great point there, Scott. We didn't look past any team. Once we did win a game, we prepared immediately for the next one. I mean, we may have celebrated for a few minutes. Yeah, we accomplished what we set out to do in that game, but now the new task at hand was now the UCLA Bruins, and being the fact that we played them early in the season, the first game. They had a lot of success during the season and ended up being in the Final Four. Of course, there was a lot of talk about it was just an exhibition game against us in St. Louis and what have you at the beginning of the season. Well, we didn't engage in the back and forth commentary. We just focused on what our task was at hand. We focused on the game plan. We focused on our individual assignments on the court as to who we were guarding, who was guarding us, and then just went out and played the game. We played to our potential and played with poise. And the thing about it is that we didn't toot our own horn. We just have the social media that we have today, that all the press and the media and all the accolades and comments that are going on. We didn't have those distractions. And one of the things that Coach Knight was really good about was keeping us focused on the task at hand. And we learned that we were better off by focusing on our next opponent and doing the things that it takes to be successful, the things that we practiced on, the coaching that Coach Knight gave us in preparation for that game, and took it one game at a time. And thus, again, we had another great game against UCLA and went on to play against Michigan.
Yeah, but then if you go back into that game, I think one guy that almost sort of gets lost in everything is Tom Abernathy. Tell me about the defense that he put on Richard Washington, who I think went scoreless for 25 minutes in that game. Abernathy was just a great defender. Tell me about him.
Tom Abernathy was, is 6'8", has a great basketball IQ mind and a great defender as well. He knew his role. He played his role. He did a great job against Richard Washington, shutting him down. And it's exciting to be a part of a team when you have players around you the caliber of a Tom Abernathy or a Scott May or Bobby Wilkerson, a Quinn Buckner or Jim Cruz coming off the bench, or Wayne Radford or Jim Wisman. These guys coming off the bench, and I'm going to change the narrative here just a little bit to help you understand. Over the last 50 years, I've had people on a daily basis ask me, what was it like to play for Coach Knight? What was it like to win a national championship? What was it like to go undefeated? What was it like to play against the world champions and beating them? And what was it like, to go undefeated and being the last team in the history of the NCAA to go undefeated? Who was the toughest team you ever had to play against? That question came up a lot over the last 50 years. And there's a lot of teams we played. I already mentioned UCLA, the Russians, Minnesota, Alabama, our entire road to the Final Four, all those teams. Every one of our Big Ten teams that we had to play throughout the season were all tough. But the toughest team that we had to play was our second team. Because we had to play against them every day in practice, and they dedicated themselves to making us better. They worked us, they played us hard, they blooded our nose and blooded our lips and everything, and played us so hard in practice that we couldn't wait to play a regular game. Practices were so hard Of course, we didn't have officials in practice, so no blood, no foul. And if it was blood, well, that was so on. You just pick yourself up and keep playing. And we couldn't wait to play a game because compared to practice, it was almost like a piece of cake playing in a game.
Yeah, and doing all those hard practices with the blood and everything, that just brings a team closer. How close knit was that team? You guys beat UCLA. Now you're going for the championship against Michigan. How close are you, and how much did you feel we got this?
Well, we were always very confident, not cocky, but confident. We knew our talents and abilities. We knew we knew each other individually and what our strengths and weaknesses were. We came together to follow Coach Knight's coaching and his instructions. We were always, like I said, we were always prepared for the team that we played. But most importantly was it came down to it didn't matter who we were playing because he always had a scouting report that had us prepared from that standpoint. The important thing is that we went out and we played to our potential and played with poise, no matter who it was we played against. And that was going out about executing our offense and playing our team defense. And when you came up against Michigan, the narrative was, well, you might beat Michigan 2 times in a season, but you'll never beat them 3 times. And we had a point to make again to let the people know throughout the country and throughout the world that we were not a fluke, that we were as good as what we had come to that point to be. And of course, the first couple of minutes of the game, Bobby Wilkerson takes an elbow to the temple and gets knocked out, and he's carried off the basketball court unconscious. And we go into the locker room at halftime, 6 points down to Michigan, and we were all concerned about our friend and teammate Bobby Wilkerson and his health and well-being. And Coach Knight knew that. He sensed that right off. And the first thing that Coach Knight said to us was, boys, he says, Bobby Wilkerson is resting comfortably at the hospital. He's under observation. He's going to be okay. Coach Knight knew that we as a team needed to know that about Bobby. It was kind of like deja vu when Scott May got hurt the year before. But that really settled us down. And Coach did some coaching and made some adjustments. But then also, Coach said something very prophetic. And it's only prophetic as you look back on it. At the time, we didn't realize it was prophetic, but he said, boys, in the next 20 minutes, you have an opportunity to make history. And wow, 50 years later, that was so prophetic and all. And he said, all you need to do is go out and execute your offense, play your defense, play to your potential, and play with poise. And we went out and played probably the most exciting and flawless game of half of basketball. And I believe that we scored 57 points in that second half, which I think still stands as the most points in a half scored in a Final Four.
Yeah, you guys actually locked Michigan down in that second half. But when I watched, there's 11 seconds left in that game, and that's when you come out of the game. What is that feeling like coming out, the roaring of the crowd, knowing that you're finishing an undefeated season with a championship?
Well, first of all, I thank God, task completed. I came off the floor. I had my arms raised with number one, pointing to my parents and my family and friends up in the stands. And I knew that what we had set out to do from the time I came to Indiana University as a freshman, the task was complete, and we had accomplished winning the national championship and thus, going undefeated. It was such an elation. I praised and gave all the glory and honor to God, and I thank Him for that opportunity to be in that position and on that platform to play. Again, I'm repeating myself, but play for Coach Knight, to play with those great players, and to play for Indiana University. What a blessing.
So, speaking of undefeated seasons, you guys, the last college basketball team to go undefeated, but there was a Hoosiers team this past season that also went undefeated. How much pride did you have watching the football team accomplish that?
Oh my gosh, Mark, that was so much fun. Seeing the Indiana Hoosiers football team play this season, 16 and 0, game after game after game, and to really realize, and I don't know, maybe your listeners don't know or realize, but Indiana University football had the most losses of any college football team in the entire country forever. And so for them to go from the outhouse to the penthouse 16 and 0 was just a whole lot of fun. I really enjoyed watching the team play. It reminded me so much of our run in 76 when we were 32 and 0. And actually, we were 33 and 0, by the way, because they didn't count the Russian game. They counted it as an exhibition game, but we were 33 and 0 in 76. But to watch them execute their offense, to watch them play their team defense, and see that when one player may have an off night or an off game, someone else picked up the slack. They played together as a unit. Coach Signetti did an absolutely fabulous job of recruiting, and he didn't do it with NIL money. He didn't do it with 3 and 4 and 5-star players. You know, he took players that were passed over many times by many different college football teams, and players that had the heart and mind and all to be champions and were willing to come together and play together as a team. And my hat's off to the Indiana Hoosiers football team and Coach Signetti, what they accomplished. And just want them to continue to have great success. And of course, we had our first Heisman Trophy winner and Mendoza, and that is just so awesome. That young man is what a tremendous example and a tremendous credit to not only Indiana University, but to the game of football and to college basketball, and a great example for young boys and girls.
Questions fly, lightning strikes as answers try. Buzzers bring chaos in the air. Trivia time, truth.
So that leads me into my trivia question. We're going to tie in Indiana football to this question. True or false? The actor Lee Majors, $6 Million Man, Big Valley, Fall Guy, Owen Marshall, prolific actor. True or false? He once played football at Indiana.
Wow, I can't tell you. I have no clue. I'll say true.
You are absolutely correct. He played football at Indiana University in 1957 and 58 before transferring to Eastern Kentucky University. So,
Wow, that's
yep.
awesome. Didn't know that for sure, but with that question, I thought that's where it was going. So thank you for sharing that, Mark.
I tried to help you out there.
Great.
And think of it now, Kent. Now with NIL, they're all $6 million.
Yeah.
Yes,
exactly. He's now underpaid now.
Yeah. What was that song? Born Too Late?
Yeah.
Well, they need to change the narrative on that to Born Too Early.
That's
in our case.
You know, Ken, during our interview, you mentioned two words a lot. You mentioned the word team and Bobby Knight. On November 1st, 2023, when you found out Knight passed away, how tough a day was that for you, and what memories did you have?
Wow, the day that got word that Coach Knight passed away, of course, lots of memories came flooding back. You know, all the 4 years that I played for Coach Knight, the time, energy, and effort he spent recruiting me as a high schooler, the time, energy, and effort that he spent working with me to help me develop my basketball talents and abilities, and of course the fact of what he accomplished on the basketball floor. But a lot of people don't realize all the wonderful things he did off the court, with the money that he raised, with the lives that he touched in the hospitals, and and answering people's mail and questions about basketball and life. And he was really a giver that people don't know and realize. And it's sad that he had to go out from Indiana University the way he went out. But to look at the 29 years that he spent here at Indiana University, it's my understanding that there's going to be a statue in his honor placed in Assembly Hall on the south side lobby, along with our statue as well.
That's fantastic. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Hey, Kent, going #1 overall in the NBA draft after that perfect Indiana season, you had been used to pressure. You played in the Final Four, perfect season, playing under Coach Knight, all that stuff. But this is a different kind of pressure when you went to Milwaukee. What was that like for you as a young man?
Well, transitioning from a college game to the professional game was it was tough, no doubt about it, because in college you play against a few great players, but when you go into the pros, all the players that are there are the greatest players that come from different teams and a combination and what have you. So the approach that I took was to continue to utilize and take what I learned from Coach Knight, being a team player, playing team defense and all. A lot of times, especially early on, playing team defense came back to bite me, because that wasn't always the case in the NBA, playing team defense. And so when I go to help someone to help defend their man, expecting someone to take mine, didn't happen, and so my man would score or something. So it was a learning process. But after 11 years in the NBA, I'm so thankful and blessed that I was selected #1 overall by the Milwaukee Bucks. I played 2.5 years with Milwaukee, 6.5 with the Detroit Pistons, a year in Utah with the Jazz, a year in Cleveland Cavaliers, and then a year in Italy for a total of 12 years altogether. And I had an opportunity to go back and play 5 more years in Italy, but my daughters were at the age where they were starting to play their sports and what have you. And I had lived my dream playing pro basketball, and it was time for me to hang up my sneakers. So I focused on their careers as basketball players and volleyball players.
Yeah, you mentioned going up against the best each and every night. Talk about some of those great bigs, because back then it just seemed like every team had an all-world center. Kareem, Moses, the Chief, Robert Parrish, Artis Gilmore. Who of those greats gave you the toughest matchup when you went up against them?
Yes, 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 and yes. And rightly so. I think I gave them some challenges as well, trying to guard me and all. Of course, I wasn't the all-star NBA player, but I used my God-given talents and abilities and tried to play the role that I was brought to play.
What's the one lesson or moment from your NBA career that still shapes how you think about basketball or life today? What did you come away with the most that helped you for the rest of your life? You've lived a lot longer as an ex-basketball player than you did as a basketball player.
Well, I have to say that I learned more from my college basketball than I did in the NBA. I mean, the NBA was it was a business. It was treated as a business. But what I learned in college and what Coach Knight taught, he prepared us for the challenges that you face in life after basketball and in life in general. And so one of the things that I really picked up on was the phrase, losers focus on what they're going through, champions focus on what they're going to. And so many times when you're going through challenges and situations like all of us do, your listeners and everything. If we focus on those things that what we're going through, it steals from us. It steals our joy. It steals our happiness. It steals our productivity and all. But if we'll focus on what we're going to, remaining a champion, we make the corrections that we need to make. And corrections are important for growth. That'll truly become, you can become a champion, not only in the game of basketball, but more importantly in the game of life. And I thank God that I learned that through playing basketball, having the great mentors that I did, great teammates, both in all high school, college, and professional.
Absolute perfect answer to end this. Kent, can't thank you enough for joining us again, twice in 4 months. I must say, when we reach out to people like you, there's a preconceived notion that we have of some of these people without having ever talked to them. And you have completely changed whatever I ever thought about you. You're a very well thought out, deep intellectual man, and couldn't appreciate you more getting to know and talk to you. So thank you, Kent.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mark. I'm honored and blessed to have this opportunity to be a part of your show. Thank you, and may God bless you and your listeners. Thank you.
Kent Benson, everyone, All-American center, the last perfect, maybe the last we'll see in our lifetimes, perfect basketball team, the 76 Indiana Hoosiers. Rookie cards of baseball, basketball, and football stars are iconic pieces of American history, and they have been outstanding investments over the last 50 years. Now, key issues of Sports Illustrated, professionally graded and encapsulated by CGC, have emerged as an exciting alternative to trading cards. ThePit.com is the leading online exchange for investment-grade sports magazines. General Manager Mark Humphreys offers Sports Illustrated first cover editions featuring stars like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr., and so many more. Mark Humphreys is here to tell us more about the issue with Kent Benson on the cover. This Indiana team was really that, Mark, a team. No player really stood out. Kent Benson and Scott May and Quinn Buckner. Probably the biggest draw in the world of collectibles would be the coach, Bobby Knight.
Yeah, and of course, there's a famous article about Bobby Knight that became one of the most famous pieces of journalism in Sports Illustrated history. The Hoosiers went 32-0. They won the national championship. Benson was MVP of the NCAA tournament, and then he became the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft. So he had all the accolades. The cover shows them defeating Marquette, and of course they went on to win the entire tournament. College basketball has not been a highly collected area of Sports Illustrated so far, with the exception of the legendary inner circle players like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, who had college covers as well. Michael Jordan obviously would be another in there. So not many of these have been graded. Only 2 of this issue have been graded, but the potential going forward is obviously if Indiana fans want to commemorate, celebrate, relive these championship years and a great undefeated team, this would be a fabulous representation of that legendary Bobby Knight team from 1976 that went undefeated. And we'll have to see what in coming years, whether these magazines have the appeal mostly to those hometown fans, graduates of the university, or just Hoosier basketball fans in general. Up to this point, we haven't seen that level of interest.
Let me ask you this. There's only been two teams, or two universities, I should say, that have had an undefeated football team and an undefeated basketball team. The 54 UCLA Bruins, actually, I think it was 54, and I think they were co-national champions. They went undefeated. And then, of course, under Wooden, they had a few undefeated seasons. Now with Indiana doing it in football this year, Indiana is the only other team to have that. Would that help an issue like this in 76? Because now it becomes even more of a niche kind of historical trivia question.
Yeah, I think it could, Scott. I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right with the college football undefeated champion team. That was so surprising because the Indiana hasn't traditionally been a football power at all. The what I always think about in terms of collectability generally is who wants this in their man cave? Who wants this above their home bar? Who wants to brag to their fellow Indiana University alum that they've got the high graded magazines of both Mr. Mendoza hurtling across the goal line and Kent Benson putting one of the finishing touches on the Indiana's undefeated basketball season. So I think there's real good potential, especially for people who want to be able to ask and answer that trivia question that you just posed, which I was not aware of. Very, very interesting and a very creative use of these beautiful magazines.
Only thepit.com offers competitive buy now and sell now quotes on graded magazines online, as well as many of the most popular modern PSA graded rookie cards, including Shohei Ohtani, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Nikola Jokic, and Steph Curry. Trade sports stars like stocks at thepit.com. A prune picker wins the plum. Now, Bill, there's a lot of things I know you like. Cali.
Yes.
Baseball, sports,
Yep.
Sailing, and the Congressional Cup right at the top of that list.
I've never missed a match my whole life. Not one day one year do I go without doing that. And back in 1976 at the Congressional Cup, it's only a Southern California race. Dick Deaver was the champion. He was an Olympic bronze medalist in 1964. A very good year for that. Another guy competing in the Congressional Cup sailing is Ted Turner. He's the new owner of the struggling Atlanta Braves. He was joking about negotiating with free agent pitcher Andy Messersmith. He said, "I made Messersmith an offer. He didn't laugh at it, but I was crying when I made it." Turner would go on to win the Congressional Cup the next year in 1977. That was when the U.S. dominated this race. U.S. sailors won this event every year from 1965 to 1985. Well, more recently, they've only had 5 wins in the last 33 years.
We suck now at the Congressional Cup.
Yes, so it's been taken from us, but the Americans have won the last 2. Maybe it's coming back. We'll see. But right now, Britain and Scotland, everyone have taken over that race.
You mentioned that Southern California hosts this race, and I imagine that's, because of their location, because you wouldn't think of like Idaho or Tennessee as being big yachting places.
No, surprisingly.
What are you talking about? Go down the Snake River, man. Come
That's
on.
right. Hey,
down the Snake River.
That is a different kind of sailing for sure. Mark, this used to be something the country paid attention to, the America's Cup, these kind of things, but not so much anymore. In fact, I wasn't sure it still even happened.
It still is. And if you want to go to the 61st Congressional Cup, it's going to be April 29th to May 3rd at the Long Beach Yacht Club, and it'll be preceded by, you ready for this? The Thicker Cup Grade 2 event from April 24th to 26th, which will award the top 2 finishers an invitation to the Congressional Cup.
Man.
And this is all part of World Match Racing Tour.
What do you guys got going on that weekend?
Hold on, I'm on ticket. I'm on Ticketmaster right now.
You know,
Oh,
I
we're
just want to
going.
know, do they still have, what was it, Legends down in Long Beach?
I, I wonder if that's there.
Yeah, because you know
Does
what's really
Christopher
funny?
Cross actually send them off?
Legends
The
in Long Beach,
sailing takes me away.
you know,
Where I want to
Legends in
be.
Long Beach is just a few blocks from where so I have an affinity to Long Beach and Belmont Shores because my grandparents live there, and I remember even going to first grade for like 3 months in Long Beach, and my aunt and uncle's store was right about 2 blocks from Legends, right on Second, right on that popular street in
Do they
Long Beach,
still live
Belmont
there?
Shores. Well, the building is still there
Oh,
because it's an architectural landmark, so they can't change the front of the building. So there you
I
go.
remember Mark telling us in an earlier show, like his grandfather was born in like 1870 or something.
Yeah, my grandfathers were born in 1874 and 1879, which makes me 205 years old,
Ah, that
and
is
I look damn good.
too funny. Too
Yeah.
funny. All right. At last, spring is sprung. We'll talk about that other stupid sport that nobody cares about, baseball. Major League Baseball opened spring training despite tense labor negotiations. Commissioner Bowie Kuhn ordered camps to begin while owners and players continued debating the future of the reserve clause. Mark, they did have a little bit of a work stoppage back then, but when did the season actually start?
The season starts on April 8th, no games were lost from the regular season. And to me, it's April 8th, that's even early. I mean, baseball at one time started like mid-April, the regular season, like maybe when it was a 154 game schedule. But now, what was our season opener? March 25th? I mean, at least they're smart enough to start these games on West Coast or dome cities. But I mean, my God.
Yeah, I don't really like the idea of shortening the season, but the only thing that I like is that maybe that would mean we would start the season again in April and not in March.
Well, here's a solution. You start the season in April, but you start playing double headers again. And I know owners are going, oh, no, we got to make money. We can't give, 2 games for the price of one. Well, then just do day-night double headers, but start playing double headers on Sundays or even Saturdays if you want to do them. I used to love double headers, man. Get up
Sunday
in the morning.
doubleheaders is the best part of being a kid. It was
Yes,
so awesome.
the Sunday paper. You'd see if your team was only playing one game, you'd be disappointed.
Right.
I went to a couple Angels doubleheaders when I was a kid. It was great. You had that half hour in between.
Yep.
And I was so fantastic.
Great, great. Or like
Now they do a doubleheader, but it's morning and evening,
Right.
and they make you pay twice.
Right. But at least then you could start the season in April.
Yep.
The central conflict involved free agency, as we've talked about. Andy Messersmith and Dave McNally would become free agents and change the world of baseball and sports for forever. Marvin Miller arguing that players should be free after their contracts are up. Owners pushing for long-term control and compensation. But Bill, going into spring training, lots of guys there with no contract.
That's right. In 1975, when camps opened, there were only 10 players that had not signed a deal. This year, 1976, 150 of the 600 major league players had still not signed a contract.
Man, yeah, so that's up 15 times. That's a bunch. That happens sometimes now, right? The players, they don't come into camp anymore. But remember a couple springs ago, there were some big names that were unsigned for a long time before the end of the season. There were players that were unsigned. They run and they gun and they're a mile high by Curry Kirkpatrick. We're talking the Denver Nuggets as they emerge as the dominant team in the ABA, powered by stars like high-flying rookie David Thompson, defensive stud Bobby Jones, and sharpshooting center Dan Issel. Bill, they played at a ferocious pace.
I would think just amazingly fun games to be at. They scored 100 plus points, the Nuggets did, in 79 of 84 games, and that got them to the ABA finals.
Yeah, they ran away with the league's best record. They go up against Dr. J and the Nets in the finals. And how did that go?
Well, it didn't go well. The Nets beat them. Julius Erving led them to the ABA victory, ABA title victory, and then the MVP voting came out. Julius Erving won that as well. But the Nuggets can take solace. The next two players were their guys, David Thompson and Bobby Jones.
Despite their success and strong attendance in Denver, Mark, they have a long history between the ABA and the NBA, but they only have the one title, right?
That's it. But you know what's really interesting is, you know, they played the Nets in that this is the last ABA, playoff series before the merger.
Yeah.
And basically Denver had to win a 7-game series over the Colonels, and the Nets had to win a 7-game series over the Spurs. So what's interesting is those 4 teams that were in the semifinals, only one of them didn't get merged into the NBA, and those were the Kentucky Colonels. But the history of the Denver team is fascinating. For instance, originally the team was not going to be in Denver. Originally, the ABA was going to place the team in Kansas City. But George Mikan, who I believe was the first commissioner of the ABA, the great former Laker player when they were in Minneapolis, he said, I think Denver would be a really good city, to play basketball in. So they decided instead of Kansas City, they'd go to Denver. And originally, their names were going to be the Larks, the Denver Larks, after Bird. And then they changed their name to the Rockets. So people don't remember, these were the Denver Rockets from 1967 to 74, their first years in the ABA. And then they switched to the Nuggets in 1974. I'm guessing maybe they knew they were going in the merger and they already had, the Houston Rockets in the NBA. I don't know. But yeah, they went from Kansas City to the Denver Larks to the Denver Rockets to the Denver Nuggets.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Worked out well for them, for sure.
Yep.
A Big 10-4 on the call of the Wild. Citizens Band radio became popular with sportsmen, hunters, skiers, campers, because it allowed them to quickly share real-time information about weather, road conditions, where the Smokies were, all that kind of stuff. We're talking CB radios. And Billy, you have a personal connection to this.
Yeah, when we drove to Ohio from California, that's what we had. My stepfather had put in a CB radio in the car, and it was what Mama Bear and Working Man. See me driving down the highway, and he'd get on and go, "This is Working Man. Any Smokies out there?" And like a 18-wheeler would get back and go, "This is Big Daddy. Smokey off the 92 by the bridge. Be careful." It was always a lot of fun. I never had a call sign, but I was in the back thinking, I wish I could play. Yeah, CB radios were big back in the 70s.
Yeah, we now call that
your call sign.
we now call that Waze.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I had no idea what they were until this stupid, silly little song that if you people want to close your ears for a little bit, Mark is going to tell us about. Mark,
bring it, Mark.
Well, there was the Convoy movie, but that was preceded by the Convoy song, which came out in 1975 by C.W. McCall. And I love that one. It was like, we got a mighty convoy rocking through the night. We got a mighty convoy. Ain't she a beautiful sight? Come on and join our convoy. And that's about all you need.
So Mark.
Yeah.
I'm weeping right now.
You lasted 20 minutes in chorus?
No, yeah, but that's because I wasn't singing all the time.
I would say that's about 15 too long, buddy.
No, if I mouthed the words, I could stay in chorus. But once I could hear me sing it, I'm done. Lip syncing.
Mark, I'm all for you opening up on American Idol.
Yes,
I can see it.
Mark Hoffman
with Convoy.
The new Milli Vanilli.
That's right.
Yeah, I think you're more like the Gong Show.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, Chuck Barris coming out going, "Mark, get out of here." And you just leave the stage still singing.
Too funny.
That's fun.
We all can't be good at everything.
The rapid growth of CBs created a cultural and commercial boom. So, yeah, as you mentioned, the movie, the songs, everyday communication, though it also brought issues like signal interference, theft, and government regulation. So I don't think truckers don't need it anymore, right? We all have cell phones now. What's that name again? Let's talk a little more college hoops. The Charlotte 49ers men's basketball captured national attention in the 1976 NIT tournament, back when that tournament had a lot of clout. a stunning powerhouse NC State Wolfpack in the semifinal at Madison Square Garden, fueled by community support that even raised money to bring the team's pep band back to New York. But Billy, as we've talked about in the past on this show, the games on the court weren't their only concern.
No, it's not that way as much nowadays. At least they don't talk about it. But before UNC Charlotte played NC State, the players still had to take their college exams. So what do you do about that? The university solved the problem by flying the textbooks and take-home exams to Manhattan. And Coach Lee Rose was told, just stay up there and play, but when you're not playing, finish those exams.
I remember I did a feature in the late 90s. I was covering UCLA in the NCAA tournament. It was the first couple of rounds, and they had to take their finals there. So I remember we shot video of them, like, they were in a hotel, like, ballroom, and they're all taking their finals and stuff like that. And so people don't realize they are students. They are obligated to take these tests.
Well, there was a running back at Texas Tech. I forgot his name. A decent running back in the NFL. His grade point average was 0.00. So I'm not sure if he was taking any exams.
Wasn't that Blutarski's in Animal House?
It might have been, but no, it was. I could find it. Yeah, but I'm saying nowadays you never hear a player being academically ineligible. Never, never. It's changed.
Well, they're paid now. Come on.
That's true. That's true.
Kent Dorfman had the 0.00.
Fat, was it fat?
Fat,
lazy,
drunk, and stupid.
There's no way to go
There's
through
no
life.
way to
son.
go through life, son.
John Vernon's greatest performance.
Takes off the glasses. Oh my God. Such a great one.
I love John Vernon. He was in a bunch of Clint Eastwood movies, but man, Animal House, he was
Double secret probation.
But I was going to mention, in terms of Charlotte, they didn't start playing basketball till 1965. And, 76, they make it to the NIT finals. But in 77, they actually made it to the Final Four in the big tournament.
They lost to Marquette.
Yeah, thanks to Cornbread Maxwell.
Yep. Cedric Maxwell's the tournament MVP here in the NIT. They would lose to Kentucky 71-67, but you're right. That kind of spurred them on. They had a couple good years, and Cedric Maxwell had a pretty good long NBA career as well.
You never met Cedric Maxwell in Boston, Scott?
I did many times. Good guy.
Good guy?
Yeah.
Doesn't he do a color now for the Celtics?
He does. He's there.
He's a good guy?
He is a good guy, yeah. One of my favorites from back there, which I did not want to like him because he was at the heart and soul of that Celtics Lakers thing.
He was.
He tells a great story about Larry Bird coming on and, them being like, oh, man, who's this white boy? He can't, what the hell? And he goes, and I go out there and guard him, and he hits a shot, and I'm like, oh, man, and it's all right. So now I'm really going to guard him. And so he pulls back, and now he hits another shot in my face. And I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna guard this little white boy now. And he pulls back, and he hits another. And I'm like, damn, this boy can play.
Welcome to Larry Bird's world.
Exactly. Swimming, Billy, this is quite a story. A guy named Jaunty Skinner.
Yeah, when it comes to Congressional Cup racing and swimming, yeah, I'm your guy, especially if they're from South Africa. That's where Jaunty Skinner was from. Now, remember back in 1976, Jaunty Skinner in South Africa, not him personally, but South Africa was banned from the Olympics, making him ineligible. But after the Olympics, at the Summer Swimming Championships in Philly, he barely qualified. This is Jaunty Skinner, barely qualified for the finals. Then he broke Jim Montgomery's 20-day-old world record by 0.55 seconds. Why is that such a big deal? Because the Olympic champion was Jim Montgomery.
Wow.
So Jaunty Skinner might have been a little different if he was able to play in those 76 games.
Do you know his name is actually John Alexander Skinner? I guess
I go by Jaunty because him and I are buddies.
So I was looking to see, is there another Jaunty? I've never heard of Jaunty before. Is there another Jaunty that had been an athlete? And there was a Jaunty Rhodes, who was a South African professional cricket coach. So
from the exact same place.
Yeah. Well,
wow. Maybe John. I wonder if Jaunty's a big name in South Africa.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Interesting. Yeah. What could have been, right? Skating rings around America. This is back when ice skaters were the darlings of America, and two of them right here, Peggy Fleming and JoJo Starbuck. Couple of names that, have, I mean, Peggy Fleming retired like almost 60 years ago, 55 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yep.
And, still a name that we all know.
Yeah, she obviously won Olympic gold in 1968, and she didn't want to be. They called it the Ice Capades. She didn't want to be part of that, but they convinced her, and she became a headline performer, and she participated in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s.
Yeah, basically gave her a career
Yep.
to continue skating on a professional level, but not the, hard, more as an entertainer.
Yeah, and you get paid fairly well for that. So it actually kept her in the limelight because, as we all know, a lot of times after the Olympics, at least back in the day, when you were done, you went back to obscurity.
And Mark, JoJo Starbuck, tell me a little bit about her.
Well, I just remember as being the wife of Terry Bradshaw. So you had these two athletes, married together.
Yeah,
It was like the athletic power couple of the time.
for sure. I mean, once again, it's another one of those sports I don't think we can really relate to the kids of today. That ice skating back then was pretty big deal. Like you knew all the ice skaters, especially the women ones. And JoJo Starbuck right at the top of that list. So yeah, to think she's marrying a future Hall of Fame quarterback, that was big.
Did you guys go to the Ice Capades ever as a kid? Because I know I did.
I
You
don't think
might
I
have,
ever
I just
did.
Yeah.
don't remember.
Yeah.
But it's
I like
amazing because it's like going to a big theater production, but it's on
Yeah.
ice.
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, they were obviously all ice skaters are so talented. It was a lot of fun. I remember being a kid and really liking it.
Yeah, now they do the Disney on Ice and
Oh yeah, that's real popular.
right, all these.
On to many of those.
Oh yeah.
And down the stretch they come.
As I see it's the last thing in the issue before for the record, Sports Illustrated did a fan poll on the MLB's bicentennial's most memorable moment for each baseball franchise. Give me a couple of them, Billy.
Lou Brock's 105th stolen base. It would eventually be breaking Maury Will's record. Bill Mazeroski's 1960 World Series homer. Mazeroski just passed away a few weeks ago. Or Henry Aaron's 715th home run, which was huge for us because we got to speak to Tom House, who caught that ball, who caught Henry Aaron's ball.
Yeah. They said that most of the fans were voting for things that happened closer to 1976 other than things that happened in the 30s, which makes sense. That'd be like
Right.
people voting now for something that happened in 2020 versus in the 1980s.
Yeah.
But we were trying to think. I mean, I would think that the Kirk Gibson home run still, if not the number one, it's got to be in the top 5 most memorable moments in baseball history, not just Dodgers history.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I still remember watching it live and stuff.
Yeah.
And I did a show called Hardcore Baseball that was on Fox Sports Net. And we had a show where we had Dennis Eckersley on a show, and then we had a different show where we had Kirk Gibson on the show. And then we married the two shows together so you get the mindset of the pitcher and the hitter as everything unfolded on that at bat.
Yep. And some people don't know this, but that after the game, Eckersley said something about being walked off, and that was the time people ever heard that term. And since he hit the walk-off home run, people think the walk-off home run is them talking about the offense. They're actually talking about the defense walking off the field because the guy just hit a home run. So,
You ready, dear?
all right.
For the record.
For the record, Spider Savage, Billy. What a story here.
Yeah, this is something that my mom used to always get the Enquirer magazines. And so back in 1976, this was a huge story on the Enquirer where I got most of my information as a kid. But Spider Savage was 31 years old. He was a 1968 Olympic skier. He was a world pro champion. But he died in Aspen, Colorado after being shot by his girlfriend at the time, singer Claudine Longet. She said she did it on accident. It was an accidental shooting. Some people say it wasn't because of the way the body was found. But she only spent 30 days in jail after this crime. She had to pay a small fine, and her time in jail was served mostly on weekends. But people were real upset because she later vacationed with her defense attorney, Ron Austin, whom she eventually married, and they're still married to this day. I don't know. I mean, back when my Inquirer days, she seemed guilty, but I have no idea.
Claudia Longer was real popular. She was like on a lot of, she was a singer, but she was on a lot of television shows. Like she'd be a guest star on all these shows. And she had that French accent and,
Yep, beautiful.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful lady. But it became such a meme back then that I remember one of the first years of Saturday Night Live, they did a spoof of it where it's like the Spider Savage, ski race or whatever, and all of a sudden you'd see a skier fall on the slopes and they go, and another skier's just been shot by Claudia Longer, and then they go to another skier and go, oh, and look, there's another one shot by Claudia Longer. So Claudine Longer. So anyway, I just remember that.
There's nothing funnier than poking fun at someone dying.
Yes, exactly.
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Well, let's do it again. Joe Folks, 54, an NBA star with Philadelphia for 8 years in Eddyville, Kentucky. He died of a gunshot wound following an argument with his girlfriend's drunk son. Folks led the Basketball Association of America in scoring in 1947, and in 1949 he set a single-game pro scoring record of 63 points that stood for 10 years until this guy by the name of Elgin Baylor scored 64 in 1959, and he is credited with developing something everyone does now in basketball. Do you care to guess what that is?
Foul out.
Say again?
Foul out.
No.
I'm kidding. I don't know.
The jump shot. He is one of the game's greatest and most impactful players of all time. He came up with the jump shot. Imagine that. Joe Folks. I'd never heard of him. And there's this little blurb about how he was, quote unquote, the son or the girlfriend's son was sentenced to like 4 years for involuntary manslaughter. They were both drinking and died too soon, 54 years old. Faces in the crowd. Look at this. This is sad. I think this is show 116, 117. Not one face in the crowd.
Oh,
my God.
The 19th hole is open for
We
law.
got to work on this. 19th hole, Bill.
Okay, this is from Alida Radzowitz from Somerville, New Jersey. Not happy here. Not really with the article, but with what they said in the article. Said Mano's article on the one and only Joe Paterno accurately relates the reason for both his successful record and the fine men he turned out. But please, Mr. Mano, go back and research the words to our alma mater. This is Penn State. When we stood at boyhood's gate, shapeless in the hands of fate, thou didst mold us, dear old slate. Alida Radzowitz. Now, the editors of Sports Illustrated came back and said, boyhood officially became childhood last fall to accommodate co-eds. So shut the hell up is what he's saying.
Mind your own beeswax.
Yes.
That's pretty funny.
William E.W. Gowan from New York writes, those were great stories about Rosie Mittermeier and Franz Klammer and the joy in their villages over their triumphs at the Winter Olympics. Now, what does Detroit plan for Sheila Young, America's outstanding champion in Innsbruck? Well, one of the great parts of this show is I thought to myself, why don't I ask Sheila Young, who was our guest on the February 2nd show, what they did? So I did, and she wrote back, hi, guys. Yes, they did have a parade for me and a luncheon, and I received a key to the city. It was very nice. The coolest thing for me after returning was getting an invitation to a state dinner at the White House. Lots of great memories from 1976, Sheila Young. So I just think that's one of the perks we're having here is we develop these relationships with these people, and I wanted to know, and she let me know. So it was great stuff. Hey, thanks again to Kent Benson for joining us and taking us back to that incredible 1976 Indiana run. 50 years ago, the Hoosiers men's basketball chasing perfection on their way to the 76 NCAA men's basketball championship. Great reliving that moment through the pages of SI. From the Final Four drama to the Denver Nuggets lighting up the ABA, Cedric Maxwell and the Charlotte, what were they, 49ers? Arrived in the NIT. Lots of good stuff this week. We'll see you next time when we look back 50 years, which will be in 1 week. Yeah, we got 50 years to catch up in 1 week, guys. Can we do it?
We
Hope
can.
so.
And can I leave you with a parting thought?
Oh, please.
We are a mighty convoy rocking through the night. We are a mighty convoy.
For Mark Hoffman and Bill Mahoney, I'm Scott Johnston.
Come
and we
on
are
and join our convoy.
Star Prime.